Hello, lovely beings, and welcome to another Galactic Mayan astrology report. This is a report for Thursday, the 29th of August, 2024. Sending you love from Glastonbury. Yeah, I'm in Avalon at the moment. I've had, a really beautiful few days. And I sat down to record the video yesterday, and it was like I didn't have all the codes yet that wanted to come through. So it was like, no, no, no. And I think, there's just something really wonderful, I think, in being able to develop that trust in spirit that, you know, if something isn't quite flowing, to just surrender to it and then come back to it. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's why it wasn't flowing. Something hadn't quite dropped in yet. So, yeah, we've just completed the yellow sun wave spell, which has been like the integration of the shadow, finding the ways to really see our shadow aspects, really take responsibility for our shadow aspects, and then develop this more loving relationship with those aspects of us. And the way spell that we move into on Thursday is the energy of Red Skywalker. And Red Skywalker is all about bringing heaven to earth. So it's a red sign, which is like an awakening, an opening, beginning. But yeah, the Red Skywalker really is like this energy around like I'm sorry, just to get myself comfy. I didn't intend to like be all dressed and ready, but time ran away, so um I'm not. um so yeah, each one of us has got a piece of the puzzle, a piece of the tapestry. And sometimes people's life mission is something that's quite perceivable to the external world. So for instance, with me working with esteemed creatives and the youth project, like I know that was a thing that I was meant to birth this lifetime. Or it might be that you've birthed a child, or there's certain aspects of these pieces of the tapestry that are very clear on the outside. And I can imagine that, you know, if your mission is not so clear on the outside, it can feel a bit like, well, what the fuck am I here to do? But it's also, it might be that you've kind of come into a certain ancestral line to completely transform what was very locked down conditioning or clear trauma, or it might be more of an internal mission of the lifetime. But that internal is never individual, it's always collective anyway. So the journey of Red Skywalker is like, how do we together create heaven on earth? And coming to places like Glastonbury, you really get to see and feel, as all like holy sacred places on the earth, that there was a time where there was a more unified way of operating that was integrated with love and spirituality. And I think that's a big piece of, the mission of now, is to feel into and remember, on like a cellular level, remember how we once operated, and to call that back in, because we know through quantum physics that space and time are completely malleable. So this notion of like the past is really far away isn't actually true. Like it's not a linear experience that we're having, even though the mind feels that it is. So that means, with conscious alignment, we can align to the frequency and recall the frequency. And I think there's so much intention on the planet to counteract that ability right now. There's so much, doom narrative present. I really see that in all the sort of dimension, you've kind of got the third dimensional, like political sphere. You've got the fourth dimensional spiritual warfare sphere. There's like, there is this kind of doom permeating, doom notion permeating all of the realms right now that we've got access to in human form. In an embodied way, obviously, like the higher dimensions, we're out of duality and it's no longer that game. But yeah, just this notion of like, it's all here, it's all been lived, it all exists, and you know, our objective is to reconnect to harmony, to harmonization. And you know, the big piece that I guess I've learned in this lifetime, maybe I already knew it, who knows, but I've lived in this lifetime, is that when we are in devotion to synchronicity, we are going to be led into some really difficult corners. I remember reading, I don't know if it was in Existential Kink or whether it was something that the person that wrote Existential Kink spoke into, but it was this thing where they had followed synchronicity and been led into hell and then realized, I don't want to do that anymore, I want to live more chaotically. But I think for me, with my experience, it's like, if we're guided to hell, it's because there's a hell inside of us that we need to traverse, and through the traversing of that, you know, we are opening that energy, we are clearing that energy for ourselves and for the collective. But through the living in devotion to synchronicity, it is the unified map. Like, there's already a realm of unified consciousness, and the more that we kind of lean into that unification that hasn't come through the individual mind, the more we are building a new infrastructure here. And it's not going to be, the revolution won't be televised, like it's not going to be recognized. In fact, the deeper, the wider, the more it's actualized, the more counter narrative will be pumped into the sky, into our brain. So it's, you know, in terms of how we manifest, you know, we know, again, through the quantum physics world, that it's about, you know, our feeling and our thoughts that determine what happens. So the advent of the television and the programming that came with that has hijacked our ability to choose. You know, we feel that we're victim, we feel that we are receiver mode as opposed to creator mode. But when we allow our creative potential to be handed over to synchronicity as opposed to the doom narrative, what we're allowing then is this, like, okay, you know, the aspect of us that can consciously operate as part of the whole has got the reins and knows, like, because it's not in individual consciousness. It's like, that person does that thing, that person does that thing, that person does that thing. They come together at that point on the map. Oof, the next thing unfolds. So the more space that we have in time, and this is why I'm so passionate about time and the galactic Mayan calendar and coming out of mechanical man-made time, the more space that we have in time, the more opportunity there is for us to be guided to those moments that then go pop. But the more indoctrinated into time and structure and this dimension we are, the more difficult it is to actualize because there's not enough space. So it's really important when we're feeling into, you know, heaven on earth, that we, you know, we kind of look back. And I don't mean look back through the history books. And I don't mean look back into resets and mud floods and like back, even though there's no such thing as linear, into the harmonization moment. Feel, remember the harmonization moment. We were existing as a loving planet for a bit. And we are invited now, as we kind of return to, you know, we've completed the 26,000 year cycle, we're returning into the photon belt of alignment, the golden age. And the golden age is essentially about us operating from heart, from soul, together. The other piece of Red Skywalker and, you know, our individual offering to the collective, our individual magical piece, is that it cannot be separated from our wounds. And this is such a key thing that, again, like all the distortions on the new agey ideology just shit all over all the time. But I wrote a post about this a couple of days ago, or I mentioned it in a post. So Chiron, right, is an asteroid. So in our solar system, we've got an orbit, yeah? So everything's like in this fixed orbit. But then there are other things in space that also have an orbit, but it's a different shaped orbit. So we've got this like circular orbit and we're just like buzzing around and moving around and da 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 da. But then we have these objects from deep space, these asteroids that originally were one body that got smashed and then went into loads of pieces, but they are still held in an orbit. But as opposed to it being a circular orbit, it's like an oval orbit. It's fucking long. So what that means is these objects from deep space cannot be perceivable to where we are for a huge amount of time. Huge amount of time. And then all of a sudden, they appear. We're like, fuck me, I didn't even know that was there. Popped out from deep space. And then because it has its orbit that's touching our orbit for a while, we are journeying with these objects from deep space. And in astrology, you know, the whole notion of astrology is we are connected to what's happening externally. So whatever's moving out there is moving in here, is moving within the human realm. So for us to discover an asteroid, Chiron, in 1977, is that myth. Because basically what happens when people discover things in space, they work with astrologers. So the astrologers are studying, okay, what's happening in the human collective as that thing pops in. Ah, so that's connected to that. So the myth that was connected to this particular asteroid that we found in 1977, that's still very close to us, was Chiron, and Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron spent their life searching for the remedy, for the medicine, for their own pain. Were never successful at healing that, but became a master fucking teacher and a master healer, stimulated by their personal pain. So Chiron arrives as like the 60s re-emergence of consciousness is happening. And then it's like, because what happened, you know, in the 60s, we had like, whoa, let's go into consciousness, let's go into free love, let's go into all of the, like, get out of the body, get into the fifth dimension. And then all of a sudden we started descending again. It was like, oh, fuck, man, we've not actually sorted out the human vessel whatsoever. Yikes, we can't hold this energy. We can only get there when we're tripping balls. Fuck, there's like work to be done here. Boom, in comes Chiron. Haha. The mission of the lifetime is to heal, yo. So what I'm kind of speaking into within that, you can tell that I'm in the Glasgow vibe, can't you? What I'm speaking into within that is this piece of what we are here to bring, what we are here to live, what the intention of the lifetime is, cannot be separated from the pain of the lifetime, the challenge of the lifetime, the struggle of the lifetime. So phase one, if you're like, what the fuck should I be doing with my life, is to focus on the excavation of what feels painful. And then you will be amazed that slowly but surely things reconstruct around you to really bring that into focus. And it might be that that then becomes your offering in a very capitalistic way, because that puts another slur on this whole thing of mission. But it might be that your work in the world is related to that, or it might simply be your way of being is the offering. You know, your essence is the offering, which it always is anyway. So in terms of bringing heaven to earth again, the glyph for Red Skywalker is like pillars coming down from the sky, pillars coming up from the earth, and there's a gap. You fill the gap, I fill the gap. We, as the human beings on the planet, the creatures that have the choice to operate in conscious awareness or not. Because if you think about it, yeah, with those glyphs, with the glyph, the pillars coming down, the pillars coming up, the humans in the middle. If the human is spacious, if the human is open, then what we can do is bring the energy of Gaia into this realm and bring the energy of the cosmos into this realm. But if the human is blocked through consciousness, through conditioning and wounding, the energy can't come through us. So what does that band become? That band becomes a fucking barrier between the heavens and the earth. And I think that's the piece of like where we're at in this moment in humanity. Are we going to be the barrier, or are we going to be the portal? You know, and we can look at that in so many different ways. And you know, coming back, well, on the back of Yellowstone, it's fucking hard. Excuse me. Holy shit. It is hard to take ownership of the moments that we are blocking. And essentially, you know, whether it's coming from Gaia or it's coming from the cosmos, it's love. You know, it's the frequency and transmission of love that we are here to birth. But, you know, we block it, you know, we block it because of our own wounds, and because we can't look at our own wounds. It's not even the wound in itself, it's like the ownership of the wounding. It's the allowing of the feeling of the wounding that creates this block. So how can you be the channel for your own personal heaven on earth, our heaven on earth? How can you allow the frequency of love to permeate through your being, through your life? How can you transform your wounds, you know, or how can you start the quest of the transformation of your wounds that probably won't ever complete? How can you be okay with that and still pursue it? How can it be, you know, okay, I might not ever change this, but I'm going to keep leaning into it. And just continuing to unravel the pieces of hurt that then give space for more love, but then put you in situations where potentially you can be the remedy. And I think this is the other piece that's really landing for me right now with my work with teenagers, and that was when my big trauma happened and series of. I maybe got to the medicine that I needed a bit too late, perhaps not, potentially so. But with those young people that I'm working with, I'm able to support them to access that medicine as it's happening, because I know it, you know, and this is the whole puzzle. It's like when you know the pain, you can be the remedy. If you don't know the pain, you can't be the remedy. And that doesn't even mean on an external level, it's an internal thing too. It's like we can't begin to heal until we've really dropped into the depth of the pain. So yeah, the other aspect of the Red Skywalker is the angelic messenger. So be open to all the angelic wonder that will most likely come through this wave spell, and just know that if you're creating the opposite of heaven on earth in your reality, it's not because you're bad. It's because there's pain there that needs to be felt, and it's super safe to do that. So have a wonderful wave spell, and I'll see you on the other side.